Hello, thanks for tuning in. This is Dan. Welcome to the Spaceship Earth podcast and my mini experimental series, Reflections from the Great Pause. This is episode 5. If you've tuned in previously, you know the format. If you haven't, this is a little experiment where I've sent 5 questions out to some friends and previous guests on the show and other folks, and I've asked them to send in via audio their answers to these 5 questions. And those questions are: where are you and who are you with? What are you struggling with the most during these times? Have you started doing, discovered, always done something that's bringing you joy in these times? What are you hoping could emerge from these times? And finally, what bits of getting back to normal do you hope will not return? And there was also an offer to share anything that folks might want to. And that's it. And I've just been, they've been coming in, and they're beautiful, just lovely reflections and observations and thoughts from people. And I've had some really lovely feedback from people that are listening. They're really enjoying them. So this was an experiment. I wasn't quite sure what was going to come in and how to edit it up. And I've ended up just like cutting them back to back, stitching them together pretty much as they've come in. Otherwise, I was going to spend my life trying to edit them up. So they're just raw from different people, and I just set them up and off we go. So I've had great joy from listening to these, and super insightful, and I hope you enjoy listening to them too. So first up is Charlie Gladstone. Now, Charlie is really the inspiration and responsible for this series of podcasts that I'm doing, The Great Pause. Charlie is a extremely creative and entrepreneurial human, and a couple of weeks ago I got an email from him. He does many things, which I'll talk to you briefly about, but he one of the things he does is he runs this great podcast called The Mavericks, and a couple of weeks ago I got an email from him asking to contribute to a little experiment he was doing called Love in the Time of Coronavirus, and it was a remote podcast, and I thought, brilliant. And I sent him some answers, and I've ended up on episode 7, I think, of his series, but it's inspired me to do something similar, which was what we're listening to now. I met Charlie a few years ago at an unconference called Murmurations in Chester that we were both speaking at, and after that he invited me to come and talk at a festival he curates and designs and runs called the Good Life Experience, which is a pretty extraordinary festival. Charlie has a ton of projects and ventures going on, from holiday cabins and camping experiences to farm shops and cafes to publishing and editorial, all kinds of stuff throughout sort of North Wales and Scotland, building out with his family, which is a fantastic, inspiring way to develop enterprises, and with local communities on the ground in these places. So I don't know where Charlie gets his energy from, but he's a very thoughtful, considered, creative man who has a lot of wisdom, and is very, very kind. Yeah, check out Charlie, check out his podcast, charliegladstone.com, the Mavericks podcast, and dive into all of his stuff. And if you get to go to the Good Life Experience, definitely go. I've been asked to go and offer something at this year's event in September, but I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you, Charlie, for everything that you do and for the inspiration for this whole experiment. Let's cut now to Charlie Gladstone.
Hey Dan, it's Charlie Gladstone here. How are you? Thanks very much indeed for asking me to respond to your questions for your podcast. And thanks also for responding to my questions for my Love in the Time of Coronavirus podcast special edition. My podcast is called Some Good Mavericks, and that special series has been hugely well received by people. I'm now on edition 9. And actually, I've got to say that your answers were some of the most moving and wonderful of the whole series. Anyway, thanks for riffing on that podcast, and I'm delighted to answer your questions. So, where am I now and who am I with? Well, I'm in Wales. I am lucky enough to have a home and business here, and we're very much in the countryside. And I'm here with my wife, Caroline. We're about to celebrate our 32nd wedding anniversary in 2 days' time, and my 4 younger children. 3 of those children actually work for us or with us full-time in various of our businesses. 2 of them in London and 1 between Wales and Scotland. And the youngest one, Felix, who's 19, is working for us at the moment as he is not able to be at university. Unfortunately, we're not with our eldest son, Jack, nor are we with our granddaughter, who was born during the lockdown in East London and who we haven't yet met, or with our daughter, India, who is with her husband in Derbyshire. But other than that, everything is good in our family. What are you struggling with most during these times? Well, I've got to tell you, I'm struggling most with Donald Trump. I am weirdly fascinated by his utter appallingness. He is the very definition of a really bad leader, as well as a clearly unwell and unpleasant man. And I simply can't believe that he's able to get away with what he's doing and what he's saying at the moment. I heard Malcolm Gladwell saying the other day that he didn't think that he would be re-elected, but I have this terrible, nagging fear that he will in fact be re-elected. Other than that, I'm really struggling with, I have these periods, I am fizzing with ideas at the moment. I think I've been forced through having to close a number of our businesses for the time being to come up with a whole load of reinventions and transformations for when this lockdown is over. We have a festival, we have a pub, restaurant, cafes, shops, we run residential camps, we have holiday cottages. All of those businesses have been knocked out by this. And I'm seeing that as a real opportunity. And actually, I think my brain has gone into a sort of manic scramble of creativity, which of course is a good thing in some ways, but I just wish I could chill out just a little bit more. Are you doing something that's bringing you joy in these times? Yes, I am. I'm doing lots of things that are bringing me joy. I'm really enjoying thinking about my businesses and how I can make them better. I'm loving, as ever, listening to loads of new music. This has been a good opportunity for me to listen to music. I am struggling slightly with reading novels. I normally read at least 1 novel a week, but that isn't really working terribly well at the moment. But most of all, I'm just loving being with my family in the countryside. No one can go anywhere. I mean, it's really weird, but it's really wonderful. What are you hoping could emerge from these extraordinary times? Well, I do hope that we will have a major rethink, and I have lots of hopes that I have lots of hope for things that will emerge from these extraordinary times. But the one thing that I think I'm thinking about particularly is I so hope that small high street businesses survive this, and that after this we recognise their importance, not just the importance of small business and the importance of keeping people employed, but the vital community role that these small businesses provide. I'm particularly thinking of that role for older people who can wander out to the shops and chat to their friends and chat to strangers, and we're really in danger of losing that. And I fear that this may be the final nail in the coffin for many of those shops, because despite the grants of taxpayers' money that are going to small businesses, the government don't really have any interest in supporting small business, and it's absolutely certain that local councils don't. So I'm just hoping that they will survive and that we will recognise their importance and will buy things from them. What bits of getting back to normal do you hope won't return? Well, I hope that we will reconsider slightly our relationship with rushing around. I mean, I'm a massive culprit in this. I think nothing of travelling on a train or in my car, albeit it is now an electric car, for hundreds of miles, several times a week to have meetings. I wonder if we could just stay in one place a bit more and perhaps even use Zoom. I mean, I hadn't heard of Zoom 3 or 4 weeks ago, but have more meetings in that way, and just reconsider our relationship with air travel. I mean, it's clear to me that air travel is not responsible for most carbon emissions, but I do think we need to perhaps wonder ourselves whether we really need to go to Jamaica for a holiday or the Philippines for a long weekend or whatever it is. Perhaps we can just reconsider that a little bit. A few things that I'd like to share with some of your listeners. I'd love to tell them about our 50/50 project, which we launched at the beginning of this via our business, The Good Life Experience, and also our Glendy Cabins and Cottages. This is a project to try and employ 50 creative freelancers at full rates for 50 days on 50 different projects. We put out a call for applicants and we actually had 650 at last count. So it's probably nearer 700 applicants. We're already working with 30 or 40 people. It's been absolutely brilliant. You can find out details of that via the Glendy Cabins and Cottages website or the Good Life Experience website. Also, we have just launched a new website called Some Good Ideas, which is an entirely new and non-commercial place for real people to share real ideas. So you can have a look at that. Go to @somegoodideas_ on Instagram and follow everything from there. A song or a book or an action or words or a story. Best album of the moment. I mean, I am absolutely consumed by pop music. I have amassed over the course of my life something like 15,000 albums. The best album of the moment is Caribou's Suddenly. Dan Snaith, who is effectively Caribou, has emerged from being a very interesting but slightly underachieving electronic artist into making one of the best pop albums of the last several years. It's got a lovely blue cover and that sums up what's inside. It's a sunny, poppy, joyous, intelligent and original album that every song is great, but nothing is quite the same as the one that precedes it. Anyway, listen, that's it from me. I hope I haven't waffled on too long. Lots of love, Dan. You're wonderful. What you're doing is wonderful. I hope everyone's well that's listening to this. See you soon. Bye.
How's everyone getting on right now? Yesterday for me was quite tough. It was Monday and it was a sort of back to home school after the school holidays, which is sort of a weird shift to make when you're all still in the same space, but you're sort of transitioning from sort of one vibe of holidayness to sort of a kind of inverted commas school vibe. And, you know, there was sort of work, you know, more intentionally kicking work in and sort of feeling the need to be more productive, and it all got quite stressful actually in our house. Everyone sort of had their own sort of little meltdowns at times yesterday, and I was reminded of that sort of, you know, going back to normal thing, the kind of desire for kind of speed and multitasking and doing lots of things, ultimately really badly, and really I just wanted to get back into the garden again. So it's interesting. That's something I'm really struggling with a little bit, thinking about that, transitioning from that way of being able to be more present to sort of multiple things going on again. And is that really a good thing at all? Who knows? My next offering is from Jeff Bowman. Now, Jeff is creative director at outdoor brand Middleton, who create extraordinary bags for the conscious traveller, inspired by the restless spirit of the open road. They're based up in the Lake District, and they craft lifelong companions, as they call them, for the conscious traveller and deep thinker. Jeff is a fascinating man, highly creative, drives a lot of the creative force and energy behind the Middleton brand. He's an artist himself and a very deep, thoughtful, considered thinker. He's also the co-editor of two amazing weighty books called, one is The Outsiders, which I actually contributed an essay to, and one, The Great Wide Open, which are available on Gestalten Publishing, I think. Well worth checking out if you're interested in that kind of those intersections of sort of the natural world, sort of outdoor exploration and creativity. So yeah, a lot of time for Jeff. Really interesting chap. So let's cut now to Jeffrey Bowman from Middleton.
Hi Dan, Jeff here. Hope you're well, dude. I'm just going to crack on with these answers. Hopefully they don't waffle, but here we go. I'm currently up in the Lake District in Braithwaite. I realise how fortunate I am right now to be living in the mountains. It means I'm able to get out on our daily exercise allowance to ride and run and walk in the hills. Always been safe, of course, not going up too high anymore, and generally just feeling quite peaceful here. Now the tourists have all gone, you really get a sense of how grand and still the Lake District mountains are. And I'm on lockdown with my girlfriend Cozy and our dog Loki the Shiba Inu, who is absolutely loving this right now because he gets us both around full time, plenty of attention and fun and games. So I think the dogs are definitely benefiting right now. Question 2. I think at the moment I'm struggling, as time's gone on, with a sense of certain uncertainty. The longer this pushes out, the more uncertain my future and a lot of our futures seem to be. And originally I was kind of concerned with, not concerned, but struggling with the daily fluctuations in extreme anxiety to then extreme hope. And that was because there's a lot of energy around, unfortunately, having to pause Milliken, the brand that I work for, and everything that brought with it. But then I've kind of settled down, everything's kind of calmed down, and then now I'm starting to work through some of the bigger questions which have no answers. And that's where I guess the sense of uncertainty comes from. And it's certain that it's very uncertain right now for a lot of us. So I do really struggle with that at the moment. But I'm trying to keep it pushed a little bit away and not get too involved, as the bigger, more philosophical questions do really keep you awake at night. And of course, I think I'm really struggling with a sense of how to help in this situation beyond being inside. That's a real challenge, I think. Question 3. So at the moment, I am really putting a lot of energy into creative projects. I am the creative director at Milliken, and that job is very much about strategy and marketing and numbers and figures, and it is paired up with a lot of creative work, but it's definitely got a lot more focus and commercial output, whereas at the moment I'm just able to make work that I've always wanted to make and try, experiment. So I'm doing a lot of painting based on my emotions and feelings and Lake District. And I've also just picked up a potter's wheel from a friend, and having a go at that, something I've always dabbled with but never really fully had the time to immerse myself in. And then just general pottering about and hanging out, really. I guess it's bringing a lot of joy in that way, is that it's this sense of slowing down and really reconnecting with everything that I am and who I am, but also with my partner, and just really spending good time together. I think that's bringing us a lot of joy and happiness, whilst there's a lot of negativity and uncertain things going on out in the world, and other people are really unfortunate to be able to do what we're doing right now. So I feel very blessed, I guess, to be in this position. Question 4. hopefully what can emerge from this whole situation is, one, our appreciation or underappreciation for vital services and key workers. I think that's been the case for a lot of years, and it's really shown how people who keep the country going in an emergency are the ones that can step to the forefront when these things are going. I think wider than that, a general appreciation for community and other humans. I've definitely spoke to a lot more of my neighbours and people around here, and checking in on people and friends. I think the amount of Zooms and Skype calls and pub quizzes I've done is enough some days, but actually it's been so positive, I guess, to really reconnect with friends that perhaps you don't speak to as much as you should. So hopefully it'll bring a sense of community and closeness and humanity to everybody. And then I think third, from the point of view of my job and company at Milliken, is hopefully it makes people value that they can get by with less, and this idea of capitalism and consumerism, I think the structure seems to be crumbling a little bit, but it's being held up always by the idea of economy and purchasing and buying. And the more we're held away from that and withdrawn from that, there becomes a shift in understanding how to value product, and the things in your own home, how we can be creative in solving little problems like, building a fence, not being able to go to B&Q to buy the wood, but perhaps ripping up a few old pallets or things that you might have laying around to do that, improvising. And that's just a project I'm actually working on. But I think and I hope that this mindset will be a bit more permanent, or at least semi-permanent, and some things we hold on to moving forward. The value of products and items and our own money and currency. And hopefully the currency is all about people after this. Question 5. I really hope that what doesn't return from this situation is the rush and immediacy of everything that we do. I realise that we're always in such a rush, and that brings a lot of anxiety and stress, and everything's driven by numbers and figures. And hopefully what doesn't return is this overriding sense of needing to achieve and actually giving everything the time it takes to come to end or come to fruition. I don't know. The kind of idea that this kind of tuned in, switched on, like world that we're in, consumer world, I hope that doesn't come back in the same way, and that we rethink and give ourselves the opportunity to rethink about how we're self-sufficient, and perhaps looking at our country as a whole and as a collective of other countries across the globe, how we can be self-reliant but self-supportive and also collectively work together. I really do hope that this sense of individualism disappears or doesn't come with us, but we'll see. And for my final thing, something that I want to share is a little reading from a book called Active Hope, and it's just a little passage from a lady called Rebecca Solnit in her book, it's quoted in the book, A Paradise Built in Hell, and she kind of reflects some of the things I've been saying, and this book has been very helpful, Active Hope, in the last 3 weeks. So I'll just read this. That sense of immersion in the moment and solidarity with others caused by a rupture in everyday life, an emotion graver than happiness but deeply positive. We don't even have a language for this emotion, in which the wonderful comes wrapped in the terrible, joy and sorrow, courage and fear. We cannot welcome disaster, but we can value the responses, both practical and psychological. Disasters provide an extraordinary window into social desire and possibility. Cool, thanks.
Had some very exciting news from my greenhouse this morning on having a little sneak look around and watering the young plants and seedlings. I noticed a couple of melon seedlings popping up through the soil. Melons! Can you believe it? I couldn't. So yes, cultivating, well at least attempting to cultivate some melons, which is all rather exciting. I've just, I think I said in another episode, I've dabbled a lot with bits of veg growing and stuff at home, but I've really found, I think I've always known that, but I've really found the practice of messing around with growing plants and vegetables to be extraordinarily good for the old anxiety levels, for bringing them down. So I highly recommend, if you can, growing some stuff, even if you've just got a box on a window or anything. A lot of medicine, I think, in getting back into the soil and the land and the growing of food, even if it's at a tiny scale. I think it could be hugely healing. And can you imagine if actually we had governments and local governments that decided to invest in that kind of stuff? Sod the HS2s, like who needs speed? Why are we investing in faster ways of moving around? I think we've just shown that we really don't need that anymore at all. Imagine massive investments into local food growing infrastructure, community greenhouse spaces, all that kind of stuff. Imagine that, and investing in the growing of local food systems to create that kind of resilience and connection in communities, and that could be marvellous. That's the kind of stuff I would love to see emerge from all of this. Anyway, moving on. So the next offering today is from a previous guest, and it's Louise Middleton, the founder of the Kudvar project in North Cornwall. That's my dog Jem, I think, telling me she wants to go for a walk. Louise is... This isn't going to work, is it? I might have to cut and come back to this one. Thanks, Jem. So Louise is the visionary behind the Kudvar project in North Cornwall. It's this extraordinary place that's a series of sort of architectural hideouts built into this abandoned 45-acre quarry which overlooks the North Cornish coast. And it's this incredible landscape, really, that somehow encourages you to unravel and challenge yourself, and I think to be more creative. And she's doing all kinds of interesting things down there, obviously providing spaces for people to come and disconnect, to kind of maybe ask some bigger questions about themselves, and maybe to notice more life around them. But Louise is a total visionary. You can check out the full conversation I had with her in a previous episode last year. But like many other owners of small businesses, she's had to shut down everything over these weeks and deal with all of the complexity of that. But yeah, Louise is, just as I said, just this great visionary, just kind of sees things and notices things well ahead, I think, and is very in touch, I think, with what is maybe being called for in these times, and what is being asked of us, as particularly those of us, which is probably anyone that's actually locked in at home right now, probably all have some sense of responsibility, really, to be in that position. about what happens next. So check out Kudvar and check out Louise. And if you're planning on heading down to North Cornwall or anytime, you should definitely try and get yourself a night or two in a Kudvar. Quite an experience. But let's hear from Louise Middleton, founder of Kudvar.
Hi, Dan. Yes, I feel really privileged to answer your questions, which are all really interesting, and I hope that they push out some good content for your podcast. I've listened to a few this morning and really enjoyed them. So yeah, I hope that you're good during this lockdown, this insane time on planet Earth. And yeah, I'm just going to start with answering your first question. Where are you now and who are you with? I have 3 boys, but they went off to their dads before lockdown, and my elder son, Hunter, was very ill last year with a respiratory problem. He's nice and big and healthy now. He's 15, and I've got twins at 12. So yeah, he stayed with his dad. So I haven't seen my children for 3 weeks now. But my quarantine, #quarantine, is Marcus, my boyfriend, who I'm really enjoying being with. We've been listening to lots of reggae and lying in the sunshine and having a few beers occasionally, and planting gardens and seeds, and helping him at his place. And a very good friend of mine she photographs lost nomadic tribes, Kat Vinton, was at Kudvar before the lockdown. So she is staying in K1 and looking after it for me. So I haven't actually been at Kudvar, which has been amazing. And at the same time, I miss it because it's the most incredible place, heaven on earth for me. But I think it's really great that I miss it. And I miss looking at the sea. Really fortunate to be able to see that. I've noticed that all the bumblebees are massive this year. So yeah, I'm thinking that nature is enjoying this time and having time to breathe, and that feels incredible, and one of the good things that's coming out of this pandemic, worldwide pandemic. Yeah, the question, what are you struggling with the most during these times? I had this sense of trying to remain calm when everything happened. For Kudva and my business, there was quite a lot of finance at stake. And I tried not to be have a knee-jerk reaction to everything. Because maybe, just maybe, I'm old enough and wise enough to know to stay calm. And I just had to sit really in silence for a while. I did actually ring you up, Dan. You were one of the first people I wanted to get an inside line and try and kind of look around the edges of what's happening. I am a great believer in not believing what the media say. And I didn't come to you specifically for that, but I came to you because I know that you're really progressive, and you talk about emerging futures, and I'm always trying to be in that space. So yeah, I tried not to have a knee-jerk reaction, but what came up for me massively was this sort of catastrophe happening worldwide, which I still can't get my head around, although I have many friends that are dotted about planet Earth at the moment. But yeah, I felt like a sort of excitement, strangely, and I've talked to a few friends who felt the same thing, and a real nervousness, which I don't normally feel. Sort of like being a teenager before running a race that was really important, like a sprint. That nervousness before, where you know you've got to do it and you kind of don't want to do it, but you've got to do it. And you know that you've got it in you to finish the race or perhaps win. And you know ultimately that you've got to give it your best go. And it feels like that. It's a really strong feeling for me because I did lots of running and sprinting at school, and sometimes at Parents' Day. So it's that feeling of nervousness, like can I pull together my resources and my intention and my bravery and help towards an incredible future, which I think we've just been given the chance to do. And how do we do that, and who with? And yeah, it's that nervousness of maybe we won't, maybe we'll just go back to how we were before. And we need to change. It's not working in many, many ways. So there's a really strong sense of that, and I'm trying to find my way through that. So one of the first things that I did, apart from steadying up my business, was to write a really solid personal inventory, and try and be really honest about that. So one of your next questions, have you discovered, always done something that is bringing you joy in these times? I'm really bad at gardening, even though I have this massive piece of land that I'm custodian of. And, I can chainsaw and I can move big bits of earth and land around, and I love plants and nature in its pure wilderness, and I've got a rough idea of land management, sustainability. I've got a really strong understanding of how things grow in nature, but I'm really bad at keeping plants alive at home. And my partner, he's got an incredible polytunnel and has taught me how to plant seeds. And we just planted lots of seeds, which I've seen grow. And it was an epiphany for me that I need to plant food at Kudva. It's like absolutely essential to be growing your own food. And it's the one thing that I don't do, just in case this happens again. Because I think in these times we need to be off grid if we can, fully sustainable if we can, independent if we can, and growing is one way to do it. And I've spoken to a lot of friends as well, and we've spoken to our next door neighbours at Kudva who are awesome, and they're really up for sharing a polytunnel with us and sharing the work. So that is the top of my inventory. It's absolutely, number one is making a garden. planting a garden for food so that I can eat really great things. And something that I have always enjoyed doing is listening to reggae. It's definitely got me through. And I've been making some red, gold and green reggae shrines and put the speakers out in the garden and just been playing some really great old records and remembering how important music is. And then what are you hoping could emerge from these extraordinary times? I think we need to be asking the right questions. We need to be pooling the right people. We all need to upgrade our mindset. We need to be putting in a big cooking pot full of bright ideas, and pushing them out into the world. For me and for my business, I had a really strong sense that what I'm doing is the right thing to be doing. It's completely in the right place. Looking after a big bit of wilderness and maintaining it, land managing it, and creating small architectural living spaces for people to experience so that they can experience a different feeling than perhaps being in their homes and start thinking outside of the box a bit more. So that kind of joins up with my feeling nervous. Can I do this? Can I push further with what I know? So yeah, we're looking at new buildings, new architectural spaces for live working, that are fully sustainable with really high grade renewables, and places where you can live and think very clearly, progressively, and in tune with nature. So that's what we're going to do. And I've been doing my own sort of research in terms of our financial markets and our government setups. And I would really love to do a course that you tutor on. That's on my list as well, my personal inventory, emerging features at Schumacher. I'd love to be doing that and just upgrading a bit. And I notice just on a personal level, what an amazing sense of community there is, and how many wonderful friends I've got, and how kind people can be. And I really trust in human nature. And that's what's going to get us through a kindness and stripping back and not being so greedy and needy, and making do and mending and looking after what we have, emotionally and practically and physically. So last question. What bit of getting back to normal do you hope will not return? I'd love to see people being a little bit more elevated and slow, I guess, living slower lives and being more considered about what they buy. You know, we are in Europe just major consumers, and we need to think really carefully about where we buy our food and where we buy our products. And I think in this time people have been cooking a lot, slow living. Food is major, and it's definitely on my list. I don't buy really well because I'm always in a rush. I spend more money than I should because I'm in a rush. So trimming that down would be incredible, and I think maybe people will do that. And I'd like to think that people will question their governments and question the reality that's pushed out on TV. The revolution will not be televised, as Jill Scott Heron says, and it's true. And I would like to think that we become closer to our communities and families instead of more distant from them. So I don't know if I answered that very well, but yeah, I'm just speaking off the top of my head, really. But I hope that we change. We need to change. We need to be smart, smarter, and we are clever, and we need to be really creative, actually, in order to creatively problem solve. And yeah, to knock down old paradigms that don't work and to build new ones. And anything that I can do to be involved in those edges, I will push for. I've got a newsletter actually that we sent out from Kudva. I spent, I don't know, a week on it, I think, and it's got all my favourite podcasts, which include yours, Dan, and a playlist that I made, quarantine playlist that I made, and lots of producers in terms of goods that are local, that I love, that are sustainable, organic, home produced, British made. So if any of you want to have a look at that, you're very welcome. Yeah, it's got a lot of information and a lot of click links, and I think it's a good read and sort of process driven, lots of processing ideas from me, how I process my work. And it's got my personal inventory, my list on it, which is quite long, including changing my driver's license to the address that I'm living at now. But I wanted to share with you something that I've been listening to a lot. I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts as well as reggae. And I don't know if this is legal or not, but I'm going to play you the recording on my computer now. I hope you can hear it.
The Hebrews have a term which they call the Yetzer Hara, Y-E-Z-E-R-H-A-R-A, which means the wayward inclination, or what I like to call the element of irreducible rascality. that God put into all human beings. And put it there because it was a good thing. It was good for humans to have these two elements in them. And so a truly human-hearted person is a gentleman with a slight touch of rascality, just as one has to have salt in a stew.
So, Dan, to finish off, I think that's what we need. Percentage, probably 15% of rascality, so that we can push forward and we can make changes, and we are brave and we're not scared to make change and to hiccup the system a bit. Yeah, I think that's really important, just that slight rebellious nature. And that's definitely come on strong for me. After week 1 of this lockdown, because I was feeling a bit defeated, I suppose, I suddenly had this really strong urge not to give up. And it came in really strong. And that's what I decided. I remembered that I won't give up. And that I need that bit of rascality in me, and that it's quite strong, the rebellious nature. So I hope that this helps, and I hope it's an interesting listen, and send love to everyone listening, and love to you and your family. And yeah, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can dream up. Let's see what we can conjure. Let's use our smartness and rascality and our skills to change for the better.
Right, I'm going to call it there for this episode, but I'm going to finish with a track. Charlie Gladstone finished his offering with a recommendation of the new Caribou album, Suddenly. And I'm going to finish with a track on that album called Home, which feels quite relevant for where we're at these days. Thanks for listening. Until next time, peace and out.
What she pleases, 'cause she's happy on her own, and she picks up all the pieces. She's going home. Baby, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. Yeah, she's going home. Baby, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. Seems so easy, 'cause she did it on her own. There's so much she can teach me. She's going home. Baby, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. Yeah, she's going home. Baby, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. She's made her peace with everything. Yeah, she's going home. Baby, I'm home.